Welcome back to yet another part. So we've done a little bit of the drawing. Now there are many options of what you can do. I mean, on the sheet it shows like Rogarts and Quist where he's got the paint again, Michael Lennon who's got the same, and paint here as well. And this one is quite nice because the student, not an artist, she's used like tissue paper, and then the other person has put biro over the top, and they've also, I think in some of their works, they've used newspaper. Now I don't have tissue paper, I don't have newspaper, but what you could possibly do is find maybe lined paper. I've got some squared paper and I tore up some. Now if you've got glue, brilliant, please don't use sellotape, it's going to look naff. And what I've done is, I haven't got no glue to hand. Well, I might have in a bit. Do I have some to hand? Oh, I can see some over in the distance, and I could glue it in there, and I could make it part of my picture, so it starts becoming mixed media. Doesn't have to be mixed media if I don't want it to be. It can be all one media, it can be all pencil, it could all be paint. My choice, your choice. So I could get this glued down. Ooh, very old glue. Hopefully I haven't even got a brush for it, so I'm going to use my fingers. Might regret this as I want to carry on working and I don't really want glue on my clothes. Think about these things in shepherd in advance. This is what happens when you don't consider all things that you want to do, or you just don't have the things in your house. So there are ways around it. Be very careful when you place it down, because you know you want to work on the next bit, don't you? So I've noticed I haven't drawn everything in, but I had actually torn that, placed it down, marked it out, because it actually came through a little bit. It was like a tracing paper. Put the lid back on there, so I've got that down. You can't see it, I don't think, that well, but it is actually not crissy cross, but crossed pieces of paper, and I could actually draw directly onto that, or I could work with biro onto that. That's all possibilities. But you could build up a whole range of collage papers over the top of the drawing and then draw back on top of them. There are also other options. Okay, I do a little sketchbook every so often when I try, and I do like tissue paper because you can draw quite nicely on it with handwriting pen. If you have those sort of things, you can collage old pictures into the background. So there's nothing to say you couldn't do that with this. You can use lettering, tracing paper. You might have stampers at home. Scrap pieces of cardboard innards. You've got, again, scrap papers. These are like close-up drawings, things that you get from B&Q, you know, the colour swatches. They are hard to actually stick down, to be quite honest, but they are brilliant. And this took a book press to get them all in place. And then I've worked on top with tracing paper and biro, so they're different options. If you've got brown paper, maybe there are things or ways for you to actually draw on top of them. So you might be tearing that and actually working on that. This is just graphite or a pencil and white acrylic paint. So there are different options here. I just like backgrounds. Working with a dark background and working with very pale pencil crayons just to get a different effect and focusing on the highlights. So there's different options there. So you could have collage going on in the background, maybe a bit of paint, and working with pen and pencil crayon again. You could use paint, there's nothing to stop you from doing that. Little cutouts. You might have a black background. This would require you to have a white pen or a white pencil crayon. You might not have that, and that's just a black painted background and the white pen used on top. I drew this freehand and it isn't accurate. It's very pretty, but it isn't accurate. But you could certainly trace your work if you've got tracing paper or greaseproof paper or baking paper. You could do that. Another thing that I quite like. I'm at the moment working, or have been working, on a section of a picture, and I've pre-painted the background. As you can tell, I'm using the inside of the book so the letters are coming through, which is quite nice. I won't say go out and get any old book, don't like wrecking books. But then just using pencil, I've used different techniques like woolly technique here with the pencil, as well as sort of diagonal, to get different effects, and you can get some nice interesting effects like that on top of paint. So you can still have mixed media. You could use tea, use coffee in the background. I mean, with coffee, what you can do, you can actually do one layer of it over your surface. I would do that before you drew, and then draw the outline of everything, and then you could come back with your coffee and you could splat, make your coffee a bit stronger, especially with instant coffee, and splatter with it, and so you could get some dappled effects going on there. I don't think I've got anything else that I really could show you that you could potentially use as an idea, but there are different things that you could do and would be quite nice. So really think about what you've got and what you can do with your work. Anything, everything. Make it a nice integrated picture, because if you're doing this, I can assess this and use it to boost your grade, because assessment is really important at the moment. It doesn't matter whether you're key stage 3, key stage 4. Also, the practice is really important, especially if you are going to take a GCSE or taking a GCSE at the moment. All of this is really vital for your skills one way or another. It might feel that you're repeating yourself a little bit. You could be. It doesn't matter though. You're doing something different every single time. So think about your materials, think about what you've got, think about what's in your cupboard. You could get magazines out. If you've got magazines, you might have access to the internet, and you could print off pictures or patterns. I mean, these are photocopies of fabrics. You could do a fabric picture if you've got fabric and glue. There's lots of different things that you can do if you use your imagination. I like photocopying textures and patterns and stuff, and then cutting them out and, you know, tearing them down. And, you know, if you've got something like this, for example, you could have that in the background, or if you were wanting to use it on your tomato, you could have different tones of grey, maybe that you have found off the internet and printed. So you could have this pattern. You could maybe take it into Word and you could knock it down a tone or two, or make it brighter, lighter, and so you could have varying shades of the same pattern that you could do on here. So there's different options of what you could do to make something look different and interesting. If it goes wrong, well, it's an experiment. It's still a mark, you know, key stage 3 or key stage 4. It's still a mark. It still gets you somewhere. It still is ideal for assessment. So don't knock it. Think about it very carefully, what you're doing, what you want to put together. If it goes wrong, fine, it goes wrong. It's still evidence. And then you can start again, or you could go and say, well, I don't want to lose that entire picture. I do like what I've got in front of me, but I quite like this section here, or I quite like that section there. I am going to draw that bit and blow it up. There's nothing wrong with that, even if it's a section like that. That looks really simple, and you might think, oh, a bit boring, but you don't know. You can turn it around. I mean, if you've noticed, I've been working in landscape in both of these little videos. You don't have to, it's just how it fits on my desk. It's just more convenient, or my dining table rather. But, you know, think about it. Take your time over it. Definitely going to take you quite a while. I'd say, if I haven't said it already, which I believe I have, you know, 50 minutes at least drawing up, working with it. You could be spending like at least a double lesson or a double and a half very, very easily working around with this. You can expand upon it. You could just do it as a simple line drawing with block solid colour. There are all sorts of things that you can do with it if you've got facilities, or if you haven't, just work with the best with you got with biro and with pencil, and see what different things you can achieve with that. If you can get to somewhere like Tesco, fine, and pick out a few bits and pieces there if you can afford. If you can't, you know, just deal with what you have. Be creative. See what is in your recycling. You know, there might be cardboard. You might want to draw these out and actually do loads of cardboard tomatoes and raise them up and have them at different levels. Nothing wrong with that, providing you've got the scissors to cut them with. That would help. Think about maybe the papers that are being chucked out, you know, envelopes, the envelopes that you have for all the letters that are delivered. Inside there's quite nice patterns with them, so they can go quite nicely down on here. So think about what you have and how you could actually use it and change it to your advantage. Okay, I hope you enjoy.